Hey, this is a quick Photomode tutorial to add a simple FreeCam photo mode to your 3D games like I did in Everyday Sororicide, which you can play for free on itch.io and is what you're seeing in the background. This takes about 15 minutes to set up and adds a ton of fun and debugging utility to your game and is great for creating cinematic marketing assets in Engine. Enjoy! To achieve this photo mode, the first thing that we're going to do is just create a new 3D scene. It has a fairly simple setup. It will be of type character body. 3D. The reason for this will be apparent in just a bit. I'm going to give it a name. Photo mode camera. And then we're going to give it some more nodes. A camera 3D where we're going to set current to true and also a collision shape. We're also going to give these two nodes their names, namely rotation X and rotation Z. And this will be a very basic Photomode camera setup. We're going to save the scene and also give it a new script that comes with a bunch of default stuff that we don't need actually. I'm just going to copy over some variables and go over them as we go. This is what we're going to start out with. We have some export variables for mouse sensitivity and speed. These are self-explanatory, and some more variables that we'll use in a bit. And also, since this photo mode is supposed to be kind of, like a drone camera, we're also going to set the mouse mode to captured so we don't have a free cursor. Because this tutorial is meant to be like the most bare bones direct implementation, we're gonna handle this over the input function directly. We're getting a few errors here, but that's fine. The reason for that is that input is just the highest layer of input handling, and this means that regardless of whatever else is going on in your game, the Photomode camera will definitely react to your input. The code for this is also fairly straightforward. We first look if we have some mouse motion. If we have a mouse motion, every mouse motion comes with the relative field that describes the relative motion over the screen relative to the last input frame. And we can use that to rotate the character body on the y-axis, which for Godot means it's a swivel like this. And we can rotate the rotation X node on the x-axis. This basically allows us to have like an actual camera rig. Like we can rotate this on the x-axis and then rotate this on the z-axis, and then we have all of the axes independent from each other, which prevents gimbal lock. A gimbal lock is a thing that can happen depending on the order of rotation operations that you do in 3D space, where sometimes you aren't able to rotate your camera anymore, and deferring the rotation over the 3 separate nodes like this prevents that. We're also going to give the camera its unique name and then write out the clamp camera function like this, which is also very simple. It just clamps the FOV because we're going to use the FOV to zoom within the photo mode, and we clamp the rotation on the x-axis, which allows us to not do a barrel roll or like a front or back flip with the camera, because that's disorienting as hell. We also need one more variable for this, the rotation reset debounce. This is a very simple thing that we're gonna get into in just a bit, but basically we have the option, as I mentioned, we'll have the option to rotate the camera like this. That you can see the motion up here as well. And that is generally a type of thing that you only want to do at the end. And if you have your camera not parallel to the horizon line anymore, it can be kind of annoying of reorienting it back. And a bit of a later part of the script, we're just gonna give the player the ability to reset the camera. If we go ahead a mouse button input, then we just get the axis strength of the zoom in, zoom out things. We're gonna set the input map up in a bit. And then some more boilerplate movement code. This is like basic stuff. The last thing that we're gonna do is add a physics process function. This entire code block is just responsible for movement. We have the rotation reset debounce that gets decremented by delta. If we give the rotate input, for both axes simultaneously. We reset the rotation of the Z rotation node back to 0, and then we wait for like 0.2 seconds until we can rotate again. This is what we have up here. This down here is literally just boilerplate FPS code that you can find online. I think I got it from like Kids Can Code or something. Let us now get over to setting up the input map. Also, like fast forward this in the footage so you don't have to see me go through this one by one. And this is the entire input map that you need for the tutorial. First, we have some general like controls. We have the ability to take a screenshot that we're going to implement later. We have the ability to toggle the photo mode. Like half of these aren't even relevant yet, but you know, these are all that you'll need for this tutorial. We have some basic movement code. Then we have the ability to rotate, which is what I was talking about a few moments ago. Then we can zoom in and out with the mouse wheel. We can go up and down with shift and control, and we can close the entire thing with escape. If we now go back into our main scene, in the unhandled input function, we add this. If we press the photo mode action, then we load the photo mode camera and we add it as a child, and then we'll have photo mode going. And if we now press F5 and we press P, then we can see we have our camera. Amazing. We can zoom in, we can zoom out. If we go with Q and E, we can tilt the camera. And if we press both at the same time, we reset the rotation, up, down, and just go through the entire thing. Now, what I was talking about with the collision shape, in many games, it can be preferable to have the player only go within like the bounds of the game world for the photo mode, and that's why we're doing this as a character body, because it comes with collision logic right out of the box. Like if we go into our scene and we just add some static bodies, and then we go into photo mode, now we collide with the scene and we can't go into the geometry anymore, which is generally kind of nice. Now I want to go over the ability to take screenshots and also add filters to those screenshots. For that, we're first going to create a new scene that's going to be of type control and just name it photo mode. And we're going to add our camera to it. And also a few canvas layers. These will be for the UI that we're going to give to the photo mode, and also just some canvas layers that we can use for shaders, because that's fun and that's how we get good effects very easily into our photo mode. We're going to give it a new script. And then there's one more thing we need to do, which is create a certain auto load. If you've seen some of my other videos, you might be familiar with this one. It's just called event bus. I'm gonna add it like so. And this one we will just give two very simple signals called before screenshot and after screenshot. The use case for this will be apparent in just a few minutes. Now back in our photo mode script, we're gonna add these few lines of code. This is simply so that whatever we add as a UI, right? Like for example, we'll have something like welcome to the photo mode, use mouse wheel to scroll. Just like simple controls, whatever. You can put whatever you want in this, but you don't want this as part of the screenshots themselves. You just want this as like guidance. And for that, we're gonna first hide the UI before we actually take the screenshot. And then after we take the screenshot, we revert it to the visibility it was before the screenshot. Like maybe it was visible, maybe it wasn't. That's why we're saving it to a variable. Now we also need to actually emit these signals, and that's what we're going to get to now. Our function takes screenshot can look like this, right? We await the rendering server that is to ensure that the UI is actually hidden from the previous frame. Then we get the file name. We can also give it some override if we want. I usually like to give my screenshot file names names that are appropriate with the config of the application, and then also just like the date time to give some context. And then we're just gonna save it. I have this block here, this show notification, because I generally really like this. I like, for this quick example, I could implement it like this, give it another label, name it something like notification label. Just put it up in the center. All right, and then we'll just give it something like this. We'll give it like a timer, maybe 10 seconds is a bit long, maybe something like 2 seconds. And then when the timer expires, we just hide the notification label text, so we set it to like an empty string again. I'm like cobbling this tutorial together from like several of my own projects. Like there's some BB code in here if you want to turn this notification label into like a rich text label or have like a more elaborate system so you can click on it. You can also do that, but we're not gonna bother with that now because this tutorial isn't meant to be like super comprehensive in that sense. It's just meant to give you like a primer. The last thing that we want to add is an input function. Right, that could look something like this, where we just see if we are closing the photo mode, then we revert the mouse mode back to visible, which it was before, and we just remove the photo mode. And then also this block here, where we can also toggle the individual visibilities of the different layers that we give to the player with just the number keys, because why not? And if we now, instead of the camera, we just load the photo mode whenever we want to open it in the input function, this should now work. And now you can see we have the photo mode up top. We still have the same functionality as we had before. Now when we press T, we don't actually get a screenshot because we never listen for that. And now in our photo mode tutorial, we can see we have a beautiful render. Yeah. To add the effects, we can just like take any shaders. Like I got these from like my other projects. You can get them on websites like Godot shader, right? Like you find some dither, some blur, something that you like, and then you just add a color rect. Like we're just gonna use them as like screen space shaders that cover the entire canvas. Assign them a new material. We can launch the game again. We can go into photo mode and we have all of the filters selected. And when we toggle them with 2 and 3, we can see them doing their thing. And if we press T again to take a screenshot, and we can see how it works. I messed up the code for the UI hiding, so we're quickly gonna fix that. We have to await the rendering server post draw as well after, or like before emitting the after screenshot signal, and I moved those 2 lines of code down into the unhandled input function. And there's one more thing that I wanted to showcase, and that is making the transition like into the photo mode from the global camera a bit smoother. For that, we're gonna create another autoload. Just gonna name it something like global. And just give it one variable called camera. And then main. We just give it a reference to our camera. And what we can do now in the photo mode camera, in its ready function, we can copy over the values that we already have in the global camera. That can literally just look like this. And now when we launch the game and we go into photo mode, we start from the same POV, which is just like kind of nice. And that is it for this tutorial. I hope it was useful to you. There's gonna be a link to the repository down in the description if you just want to download the code for yourself. And if you have any questions, leave them in comments, or like wishes for other tutorials, let me know about that as well. And yeah, I'll see you around. You can support me on my Patreon, where you can get access to my videos whenever I make them about a week early. as well as some other small perks. You can also like subscribe and like and comment on all that good stuff, and just make my day a little better. All right, bye bye.